Hey, Elaine.
Are you going to talk about wrestling?
I'm not. I think we've purged enough listeners so far with
5 weeks.
Yes, 5 weeks to go.
5 weeks to go.
That's all people
Mark's going
need
to
to know.
WrestleMania. Yay.
I was about to talk about how we're the only people left in Newcastle this weekend.
Yeah, we are. It's the, what I'm going to call the Carling Cup. But it's not the Carling Cup, it's the Carabao Cup?
Carabao Cup, yes.
Carabao Cup, but it used to be the Coca-Cola Cup because you told me that this afternoon.
And the Worthington Cup. Mm-hmm. And the Rumbelows Cup. And the Milk Cup.
With a bit of Rumbelows.
Do you?
Yeah, renting some electrical goods for a ludicrous price.
I don't think it was unreasonable.
I think it was.
I think it was more than buy one.
It was like...
We rented a washing machine as students.
Did you?
Yeah.
Why were you renting a washing machine?
Because
Why didn't you go to the laundrette?
Because we didn't. Because
Or just buy, or just get... Why didn't your house have a washing machine? Sorry, I'm a bit confused. So you're in a student house,
Yes,
which would have had like beds and a kitchen and all. It was like a proper house.
Yes,
but it didn't have a washing machine.
It didn't have a washing machine,
and you didn't go to the laundrette like students from Soaps.
I don't think anyone.
You just rented one from Rumbelows.
Do students in Soaps go to laundrettes?
I think lots of people in.
Yeah,
Soaps
we rented
go to
one from
laundrettes.
like Rumbelows or Radio Rentals or something like that. Yeah.
Wow, and how much did that cost you?
I could not tell you. Maybe it wasn't expensive. Like it was. I've got in my mind it was like £12 each for the year.
Oh, for the year. Oh, right. I thought you were about to say like £12 like a week or something like that.
No.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Like £12 a year for a washing machine. It's not
Between
bad.
like 5 of us.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I was thinking like ludicrous. You know when you see those things on telly and it's like, here, have a television. It's really exciting. It's huge and it'll get 4K. And then at the bottom it says APR 3000% or something like that. Yeah. Why are you're waiting to tell
I don't think I've seen those adverts in a long time. I think they've probably been outlawed, but yeah.
Yeah, but you don't know that. So I was thinking, oh no, you're paying like £12 a week for a washing machine.
No, but then we'd go to the laundrette. It's So the BAFTAs happened last week.
Yeah, and we watched it, but no one else was going to because I put stuff up on our Instagram saying, "I'm going to watch the BAFTAs. Anyone else going to watch it with us?" And it was a resounding no from everyone.
I've got to admit, I also said no, but then ended up watching it.
Yeah, you probably because I was sitting there going, right, let's see who's there. I just wanted to get into the mood of the awards season. I think I don't massively rate the BAFTAs as a ceremony. I think it's really quite staid. They tried to zhuzh it up this year by having Alison Hammond do some celebrity interviews from time to time.
I mean, she's done well for herself, hasn't she?
Brilliant. I mean, Alison Hammond was our era Big Brother.
Yes.
Like, I remember her from, The Chair and all the other... Was she in the year of Johnny, who was also from Newcastle?
I don't know. That's not how I rated people at the time. Not living in
She
Newcastle.
was Kate Lawler as well. I'm sure she was in that
year. It was the
year.
third season of Big Brother. Mm-hmm. So that was Kate Lawler, Johnny Regan.
There we go.
Well done.
Yeah. It's like proper peak era for me.
So
I remember
who
seeing
else
him
was there?
down the quayside. and get
Alex
very
Sibley,
excited.
remember him?
Yeah.
Jade Goody.
Mm-hmm. That's quite a seminal year, that then, isn't it?
Yeah, Sandy. Remember when Sandy
I do remember
walked out?
Sandy walked out.
Weed in a bin. Spencer.
Oh, I remember Spencer. Yeah.
Adele Roberts, who's now far more famous.
Yeah, she's
PJ.
DJ.
Yeah. And then I think it was the next year when I knew 2 people going into it, which was weird.
Maybe from Hull.
Yeah, so...
was one a hairdresser?
Yeah, Dan Bryan was my mum's hairdresser.
And who was the other one?
So a girl I went to school with called... Actually, it wasn't the next year, but not quite sure what year it was. A girl who, when I went to school, was called Catherine Pinder. She was called Kitten when she went in the house. And
I remember Kitten.
she went in a sailor suit. And I think she walked after a couple of weeks.
I remember her.
That was very surreal.
Yes.
Like to see 2 different people. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Alison Hammond, I love Alison Hammond. I think she's had a brilliant career. I really love the way that celebrity audiences have really taken to her as well. And, they made a joke at the BAFTAs about she's the only person who's got Harrison Ford to laugh, which, as we all know, he's not the easiest of interview. So, and there's clips of her just I think she really gets people on board and they really go with it without her being overly comedic, if that makes sense. I think she's just a friendly face who will have a laugh with people. So I was really pleased that she was there. I wish she had, without dissing Richard E. Grant, who I thought did a perfectly, good job for someone who has to run the awards ceremony. It was obviously quite emotional at times as well.
He's had a time,
given his wife's recent death. So, not having to go at him, but I just thought, I wonder what it would have been like if Alison Hammond had done the whole thing. I wonder why did they give it? I don't know. They're giving it to a darling of.
He is like
film
royalty,
But I would have liked to have seen her being given the whole of the show rather than being made to do sort of backstage. I don't think the backstage things worked. I mean, we fast forwarded through most of it, didn't we? Because we got to a point where we got a bit annoyed that they were happening, so we went and watched something else.
We watched an episode of Pointless. Yes. To give us the buffer on the recording of it to be able to fast forward through.
So then we could fast forward through. And weird moments where we were fast forwarding through, and so is that Jerry Halliwell? Oh yes, it is. And then having to go backwards and see what she was doing there. Obviously, the big story from the BAFTAs is that the award winners were all white. And I really did think there was an opportunity within the BAFTAs to give awards to people who have clearly had fantastic years but just don't seem to be getting over the threshold. So there was plenty of people in the list that I thought, great, they're in the list, but they just weren't getting the wins, which I thought was sad. I was a little bit sad. This is completely different, but I was a little bit sad that Colin Farrell didn't get Best Actor for Banshees of Inisherin, that Austin Butler for Elvis got it. I think Austin Butler's performance was great. I really enjoyed it. Anyone who's listened to the podcast before knows I really, really loved Elvis. I think it was my top film with Don't Worry Darling. It was sort of like number one, number two, bobbing around in my brain for ages from last year. But I think it's more about the film as a whole that I loved, and Baz Luhrmann and his direction and just the general madness of that film I really liked. And I can understand why they've given it to Butler, but I just really wanted to see Colin Farrell get up and have a good old chat on. I think that was the thing about it. I think he's so entertaining. But I was really happy that Barry Keoghan got the Best Supporting, that Kerry Condon got Best Supporting for Women, and so the other people within Banshees of Inisherin, a film that I did not like.
You did like it?
I got a bit bored.
Okay.
There, but yeah, I'm really pleased that they got recognised.
And then the song from Ariana Bose, is that?
I think that was. I think it was picked on. I mean, we did both go, "What on earth is this?"
It's become a meme, which is never a good thing for it.
No,
But,
I mean, she seems to be taking it very much in her stride. I do wonder whether if it had come halfway through the show where everyone had sort of settled into things, I think it would have been much better. But I also think the direction and the editing was really poorly done. So you're going to put this great big performance on, but you're going to sing a song that no one knows the lyrics to. You're not going to put them up for people to follow, and then you're going to cut to members of the audience for whom you are referencing who do not know that you are referencing them,
and then they cut away before they have time to react to it. Yeah.
So clearly you're just cutting to people who might be in the middle of a conversation, who might be checking something, who might just be watching the performance and sort of trying to catch on to what the words are. So they're all looking a little bit like they're not quite sure, or even some of them looked a bit pissed off, and you just thought, no, they're not. They've just entered an award ceremony. They're trying to get, everyone knows what it's like when you go to the theatre, for example, and you're just sitting there, you're just trying to sort of get into it. And then suddenly they're being bombed, oh God, my face is on the screen, and I don't really know why. So I think if it had come halfway through, or what I would have done, direction-wise, is I would have
filmed awards producer Elaine.
Yeah, too right. I would have had pictures of them come up on the screen behind her, like stills, and I would have had the lyrics written. I would have had subtitles going through, so we could
And a
all
bouncing ball.
follow. No, but you know what I mean? Like, and putting the names up, so then they would see themselves on the screen, but it wouldn't just be their image, and they can react to it and they could follow it. I think just this sort of like, we're going to put a camera in your face doesn't work.
I don't like the idea of the lyrics on screen. I don't know why, but anyway.
Okay.
Anyway, we've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
I think we're going to break from tradition this week, aren't we?
I know, I don't understand.
Well, we've seen films separately, so I think we're going to cover them first, just to sort of, yeah.
Yeah, we've never done films first.
But that's fine, because there's no, it's arbitrary, the order that we picked at the start.
It just feels weird.
And the reason we always did movies second was because there were no movies when we first started this podcast.
Oh, yes, of course, yes, you're right. But now there are lots of movies, and we've been to see them, but separately.
Yes. And then we've got a couple of TV shows to talk about.
And we've seen them together.
Yes.
So you said it would be better to end on things that we had seen.
Yeah. And we can argue
and
about.
we could argue about. Yeah, okay. Okay, films then. Let's talk about films.
Saturday night at the movies. Who cares what picture you see? When you're with your baby, let's roll in the balcony.
So, I'm going to start with Cocaine Bear.
Okay, heading out with the film of the moment.
Yeah, this is... I mean, do you know the story of Cocaine Bear? The real-life story.
No, I mean, I've seen the trailer. Cocaine gets sent in the or drops out of a plane, and a bear.
Okay, do you want to know the real-life story?
No, not really.
Well, you're going to...
Go on then.
For context. So, some drug smugglers were in a plane.
I said that.
The plane was too heavy, so they had to drop some bags off the side of the plane, and one of them jumps out with this cocaine that they're dropping off, gets caught up in his parachute, and dies. So there is loads of bags of cocaine scattered around a forest. Mm-hmm. This really happened in 1985. Now, this is quite a tragic story.
Yes,
because,
that's what I was thinking.
I mean,
drug
smuggler,
there are lots of victims of that. But okay.
And a black bear finds the cocaine, ingests £2 million worth of cocaine, and obviously, sadly, dies from the ingestion. God. Yeah, which is a very sad thing. Yeah. It's become sort of a bit of folklore. The actual bear was stuffed. It's now known as Pablo Escobar, and it's on display in like a shopping mall or a gift shop around here.
It's not nice. Round here?
Not round here. Sorry, around here. So Metro Centre. Yeah, round where it was.
Okay.
And this has become the sort of story was kind of like emailed to people. I'm sure that I've got an email with like the story of the cocaine bear on it back in the day, like the internet forwards and things like that. I think a lot of people have discovered it recently, and so a B-movie has been made based on that story.
Is it directed by Elizabeth Banks?
It's directed by Elizabeth Banks. In any other life, this would be a straight to sci-fi, stupid B-movie. However, this has got a really, really good cast. Do you know who's in it?
Nope.
So, Kerry Russell, Alden Ehrenreich, O'Shea Jackson Jr., Ray Liotta in one of his final roles.
I think it is his final role.
He's got a couple more credits on IMDb, I've just checked. But yeah. Isaiah Whitlock Jr., Margot Martindale, who I absolutely love. Yeah, and the guy who played... it's Christopher Hivju. I'm going to go with that. Played Tormund Giantsbane in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So really, really good cast. Mm-hmm. So I went to see it this afternoon. The theatre was pretty busy for a Saturday afternoon. So this has obviously attracted people. I'm going to get the footage bit out of the way first. I'm not really comfortable with something that kind of glorifies the use of cocaine. I know that songs have been doing it for years, like White Lines and shit like that, but
White Lines isn't necessarily glamorizing. It's don't do it and this is what it does to you, and Do you know, like, if you listen to the lyrics of White Lines, it's actually quite hard hitting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know it gets played in that sort of, and it's quite upbeat.
This doesn't really sell the joys of cocaine.
Yeah.
This bear's quite upset.
Yeah.
So this is the story of the bear that ingests cocaine and goes on a fictional rampage around the woods.
So it didn't actually do this in the real life. It just died.
No one died on the
Sad.
back of this. Yeah,
okay.
it is. Yeah.
Well, the bear died.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
No humans died apart from the dealer who got caught up in his parachute.
God.
Or smuggler.
It's very heavy, this. I thought this was meant to be a comedy.
So what we get here is a number of different storylines. We get Ray Liotta, who is a drugs kingpin, who sends his goons out to fetch this cocaine, which is lost in the woods. Stop laughing because I sing "Lost in the Woods" to play the song from Frozen 2. We also get two school children who bunk off school to go and paint a waterfall, so then get lost in the woods.
Do children do that? Do they bunk off school to paint a waterfall? They're interesting children, aren't they?
Apparently so.
Wow.
And then we get Kerry Russell, who is the mum who has found out that there is a bear going rampage, and so is looking for her daughter and friend.
Rescue the children from the bear.
And we also get Isaiah Whitlock Jr.'s policeman, who is going to investigate two known associates of drug dealers who has been seen in the area.
Right, okay. So all these different people are converging on the woods.
Yes. 40 minutes into this, I was like, what the fuck am I watching? It was slow. And I'll be honest, the Kerry Russell storyline of this really, really drags whenever it's on screen. What doesn't drag is the story of the drug dealers and the whole of the second act, where this film just shifts gear and goes absolutely hell for leather. I'm so glad I watched this in a relatively busy theatre because everyone was having a hell of a time. There is ultra gross comic violence, as you would expect from a film called Cocaine Bear. There is bites, there are gunshots, there are accidents, there are people getting thrown out of things, there are people falling off things, there are limbs falling off all over the place. If you want to see a film called Cocaine Bear, and I fully understand that not everyone wants to, try and see this in a packed cinema. Like, go on Friday night, go on Saturday night, have a couple of beers, and just turn off your mind. Unfortunately, the ending also has a little bit of trouble because the ending takes place in a scene which it could be it could be a really beautiful moment, but because to show the passage of time, it takes place at night, so everything's a little bit dark. Okay. And yeah, they're in the middle of these woods, and Elizabeth Banks knows how to shoot like scenery and stuff like that. Like, he's not going to be like The Revenant or anything like that. But this looks all right at times. You know, like there are some shots of the scenery where you're like, oh, that's really pretty. Yeah, that's really nice. And then there is a bear going rampage. Uh-huh. I don't know where to place this because I enjoyed myself. This isn't a good film. Like, this is never going to be up for the BAFTAs next year. But fucking hell, I enjoyed myself. So, you know, like, it's... The beginning was awful. Not awful, but the beginning dragged. The ending could have been better. But that middle act is just a film going hell for leather. And I think it peaked at the wrong time. The girl 3 seats down from me was having an absolutely lovely time, screaming at the right points, going, oh, at the right points. And yeah. That's what cinema's all about.
Yeah.
Cocaine Bear is what cinema is all about. There, you can put that on the poster.
No, do not put that on the poster. I think I heard this, that they're going to make a one with the shark. So it's going proper, not even B-movie, it's going down that... were you talking about this the other night? Is it Asylum who make the rip-offs of the bigger films? So Mega, Shark, Octopus, Jaws,
yeah.
sort of kind of
they
that
also
sort
make
of thing.
like the Transmorphers, like Thor, the and then they will do a like Thor, Thunder and Love or something like
yeah,
that.
that sort of thing. So it's going down that route, isn't it? If you're gonna then do it with a big shark and cocaine shark and that sort of stuff.
Well, yeah, I think the Asylum have done something like Crack Shark or something like that. Oh well. So you've seen something.
Something now for something entirely different. Yeah, in preparation for awards season, I felt that I should go and see some more films that are going to be up for Oscars and other awards. And I'm really interested in acting performances, and particularly Brendan Fraser's Renaissance. I know they're calling it a Brenaissance, which I'm trying to avoid saying, but I've said it anyway. But his sort of return into film, and I was more interested in it when I was in London recently, and I'm really annoyed because there was a screening of The Mummy at the Prince Charles Cinema, and I think I'd said to someone, I was I'm really thinking about going to see that, but by the time I got to the hotel, I was working the next day on a Saturday, and you kind of think, can I be bothered to go out on the Friday night? Do I not just want to take the opportunity to sleep in a bed by myself with no one shouting "Hey" from next door, or just the light of the monitor coming on, and your heart sinking? Oh God, he's awake, and it's 2 a.m. So I thought, I'll go for a wander, and then I'll go back to my hotel. Little did I know that Brendan Fraser was going to bloody well turn up to the Prince Charles as the character of Rick from The Mummy.
I was going to say, name him.
It's Rick something, and I can't remember what his surname is. And did a whole sort of like piece. He came up, he jumped up on the stage, and he talked to everyone, and he had his photograph taken outside, because obviously he's around for awards season. And that made me want to go and see The Whale even more, because people have been talking very much about this performance. It has been nominated. I think it's won for a number of awards. And I just thought, you know what? I'm not really interested in this film at all, but I want to go and see his performance so that I can judge for myself. So I went to our independent cinema at the Tyneside. I think there was only 5 or 6 other people in with me. It was very, very quiet. Everyone sort of like sat very far away from each other. It's a beautiful sort of cinema going state for a film like this, which is quiet, which is essentially a 3-hander, maybe, with some other people coming in. And it's incredibly theatrical because it is a stage play that has been put on screen. So it is quiet, and it does have that theatrical mood. Now, Fraser's performance, because that was the reason I'd gone to see it, Fraser's performance is a good performance. I can see why it's winning awards. But the problem I have with this film is twofold. First of all, I don't feel it offers anything more than if I had gone to see this in a theatre. It was so you could just, it was almost like I was watching a video of a theatre performance. Does that make sense? You're shoving your eyes down and...
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I don't necessarily see that as a criticism, but I can understand your point. To me, that sounds quite an attractive thing, but okay.
Okay. I wonder if I'm using the wrong phrasing, because when I say theatrical, that sounds exciting and sort of like wondrous, whereas what I'm saying is that it was so stagey.
Okay.
Maybe I'm using the wrong terminology. It was staged. It was stagey and stayed, and it was just so obvious that this was once in a theatre production.
So I don't mind films like that. Like Mass was one of my favourite films from a couple of years ago, or might have been last year even. And so yeah, and that is very much that is very similar. Like, you can feel that this should be on stage. Off the top of my head, I can't even remember whether that was or wasn't, but it is 4 people in a room.
Yeah.
And that feels like, I mean, I don't see that as a negative, but I can understand
and sometimes
why.
I don't. So when I saw The Father, Anthony Hopkins' The Father, which again was based on a stage production, I really enjoyed the way that was produced and the way that you were in an apartment and all of the different things that were used there.
And I think that uses some tricks that you can't use on stage.
Absolutely.
Right, okay.
Whereas this, the entire way through, I'm thinking, oh yes, on the stage, that's what you would do with this. On the stage, that's when this shadow would come in. On the stage, that's where the door would be. So I was just thinking that all the way through. And I didn't feel it. I just felt it was stayed. And the second part of this, which has been spoken about quite a lot. This is why I'm sort of pausing, because I really want to think about what I'm saying. This film is about a man who has suffered a number of difficult times and has turned to food as a comfort.
Yeah.
He is in a much larger body than he was in previously, to the point where he finds it hard to even get up out of his chair without assistance. And he has a carer who comes in and helps him. And he is in medical difficulties because of the larger body that he is living in. The film has had a lot of criticism around its portrayal of someone who is in a larger body.
Yeah.
But it's also put forward this idea that, and this particularly comes from Fraser in the interviews that he's done, putting forward this idea that it is trying to show empathy, that the film has empathy, and trying to give an audience a greater understanding of why someone might find themselves eating more than they even want to, the level of food addiction, all of these things, or finding food as comfort.
Yeah.
And I think he has his heart in exactly the right place. And when I hear him talking about the people that he spoke to, the charities that he went, and when he speaks about we should have more empathy, or we should have more understanding, or we shouldn't dismiss people because of the way that they look, all of those things absolutely right and completely ring true. The film doesn't do that for me. Okay. The film absolutely puts things on in front of you where you are led as an audience member to stare and to feel a level of, what am I looking at? And it's inviting you to be disgusted at what you are seeing.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because when certain things occurred within the production, I heard some members of the audience reacting in a way that I found really difficult to understand. Laughing, and also a sort of like a, yeah.
And you didn't go see this at this was at an art house cinema.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm not having a go at the other people in the room, although I was feeling really uncomfortable in it. I'm having a go at the film because it lingers. There are certain scenes where you are absolutely invited to go, look at this man, look what he has done to himself.
Right.
Now, I don't think that's the intention, because I've listened to a lot of interviews around it, but that is how it was portrayed to me. And that was certainly the reaction, not from everyone, but, I had that reaction. Now, I've heard on other podcasts that other people have been in a similar situation, and other art house people being in art house cinemas, being in, it wasn't a cinema that was full of 15-year-olds that don't really know where to put their emotions and therefore laugh. So, I have some... I don't think it's a good film. I really don't think it's a good film. I think the ending's preposterous. And I think some of the performances are interesting. Sadie Sink's in this. And now she's brilliant. She's a brilliant actress, but I think she's playing...
I say there's the book coming here, isn't
Yeah,
there?
she's playing the same... To me, she's playing it exactly the same as Stranger Things. She is a teenager that has a lot going on.
Yeah.
You know? So I really struggle to see her as any different from that Stranger Things role. The person who I think deserves all of the praise, if we're going to praise this film, is Hong Chow, who I don't know if you know Hong Chow. I think she's been nominated for Best Supporting Actress in various
I know her
things.
from when she has been nominated for this film.
Yeah.
But other than that, not particularly.
Do you remember from, I can talk at a proper pace now, do you remember the film called Downsizing that was on a few years ago, and it was like an indie that we saw like a trailer for, and we were like, oh, it's really, really interesting.
I remember we saw that and thought, oh, that looks like a really interesting trailer.
Yeah.
I think I came back and said, oh, put this trailer on because it looks really, really good. And then the reviews came out and I never watched it.
Yeah, and then I watched half of it, and halfway through it just went in a place that I was like not expecting. I think that was maybe one of her big breakout roles, and I remember her from that film.
Okay.
And she's been in various other things as well, but she is brilliant as his friend and confidant and carer, and having had a caring role for the past 4 years, really understanding and knowing about caring as well, knowing other people's experience of caring, I thought that really, really worked for me. And I thought she was brilliant. So I was really happy to see that she had been nominated for things. So yeah, I am a little disappointed, to be honest with you, because I was sort of expecting more, and I came away feeling a bit uncomfortable and not happy with the film I was driving home and I was just thinking, I think your heart might have been in the right place. Obviously, you know, with the reviews, with the interviews that I've listened to, there's clearly a lot of like this idea of empathy, but that is not what the film was saying to the audience for me.
Yeah, I mean, I recently watched What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Have you ever seen that?
No, but I remember it being huge at the time.
Part of the point is that Johnny Depp and Leonardo DiCaprio's mother is housebound due to her weight.
Has he got has Leonardo DiCaprio, is he meant to be learning disabled in that film as well? Yeah.
But the portrayal of the mother is done without, and it's by someone who I don't believe was wearing prosthetics at the time.
Okay.
It felt, it wasn't a sympathetic portrayal. And different times. Yeah. We say that so often. It's 30 years ago. But it didn't feel, it made me feel very uncomfortable on scenes which I don't think the audience would have necessarily felt uncomfortable in 1993. Certainly if I watched it when I was 13, I wouldn't in 1993, but yeah.
Something a bit lighter.
Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
I actually really, really wanted to go and see this. And there was something else I was doing, wasn't it, that morning when you went to see it? But out of all of the Marvels, like recent Marvels, because we watched the trailer together and we also watched the sort of what has happened in other Ant-Man films or in other Marvel films about Ant-Man to sort of get you up to date. I actually felt more inclined to see this one, and also I really like the trailer because it's got Elton John singing in it.
So yeah, for anyone who's on the borderline about seeing this, I don't think the two Ant-Man films are the best remembered films out of the franchise. On Disney Plus they do a TV show called Marvel Legends, and they're just sort of like 5-minute shorts, and they are made to get you up to speed with what's happened in the franchise for the film. And having seen this film, having watched them, they are made knowing what is happening in the film, and they cut and paste definite bits, which it's almost like, remember when you used to watch Lost and you were like, previously on Lost, and then you see that character that appeared 4 years ago, and I'm like,
they're coming into this episode.
That's going to pop up in someone's flashback then.
I thought these Marvel Legends thing were really good, actually. It really got me, because I have not seen Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I don't remember anything about Ant-Man, but this, like, I don't know who Michelle Pfeiffer is or what she's doing, But yeah, it really got me up to date, and I thought, they were very well done, actually.
I mean, Disney know how to make...
Yeah, I know, but sometimes with these
things.
things you just think, what am I watching? But I quite enjoyed it, and it really did give me a taste for going to see it. And there's still part of me now that's thinking, I wouldn't mind, because all the spoiler specials have come out for it as well, all the podcast spoiler specials, and I'm a sucker for a spoiler special. I love just listening to people for 2 hours talk about a film in depth. So I want to see it so that I can listen to them. Anyway, Mark, you went to see this film.
I went to see this film, in which Scott Lang, Hope Van Dyne, Dr. Hank Pym, Janet Van Dyne, and daughter Cassie Lang get transported to the quantum realm that's been featured in the other 2 previous films.
Well, they love their quantum stuff at the minute, don't they? Yeah.
And meet a world which is cohabited by Kang the Conqueror. Another version of the Kang that we saw in the finale of Loki.
Mm-hmm. Keep up, everyone.
Yes. Now, have you read a lot of reviews of this? Or
Yeah,
heard a lot
I've
of reviews?
heard a lot of reviews. I haven't read any. I've just heard them on the various podcasts that we listen to.
This is a film that has got a bit of a kick in.
Yeah, well, a mixed sort of. It seems, in my mind, it's a 3 because it seems to be like, some people think it's a 4 and some people think it's a 2.
I think the Empire team were positive on it, but I feel that they are positive on a lot of Marvel stuff. What surprised me was the film cast really, which is another podcast that we listen to, really, really hated this film. And I can see why. This is very CGI heavy. You are put in a world where nothing really makes sense. You get a big cast of alien characters, and it felt to me it reminded me very much of like the cantina scenes at the beginning of Star Wars.
Yeah.
You get weird aliens that you're never really sure why they're there or what they're doing or how it actually works in practicality, but they're just there in this world, and we have our characters that we know put in the middle of them, and you have to get by. And that worked for me, like the cantina-esqueness of it. This looks incredibly fake. Jonathan Majors playing Kang is really good, but doesn't necessarily have a lot to do in it. The team is split up because, of course, they're split up and have to find each other because, of course, they have to find each other. There is a character from previous films that comes back, and the effects are laughable.
Okay.
They have...
I want to know who it is.
They have had a bit of a change in their life, and the visual that it represented to me was Games Master.
Ooh.
I thought Dominic Diamond or Dexter Fletcher was going to come out and Game Master and get Patrick Moore on screen. It just looked shit. The biggest crime this does is like certainly the first Ant-Man and the Wasp. I didn't enjoy much at all, but the first Ant-Man was a lot of fun. There is this cast of characters that sit around him. Like, Scott Lang works with Michael Pena, who is hilarious in these films as Lewis. David Dasmakian, who provides a voice role, but as Kurt is like really funny in the background. Judy Greer, who I absolutely love from Arrested Development, as his ex-wife, and Bobby Cannavale as her new husband.
Yeah.
Really, really adds something to the film. They're not in it at all because we don't get to see Ant-Man in our world apart from maybe 5 minutes either side of this.
Right.
Everything else takes place in the quantum realm. The part of the fun of this was Ant-Man shrinking and having to cope with like. You remember where he's getting chased by the train in the first film?
They show that
running on the record and seeing the grooves and stuff like that.
Yeah, so when he's really small, the whole point is that you're like, oh wow, that's such a different viewpoint.
But being in the quantum realm means all that context is gone. This is featured in the trailer, but there is a appearance from Bill Murray, whose reputation is probably less than when he filmed this film. And Bill Murray plays Bill Murray. And, he's perfectly funny. But in the background, I am thinking, oh, it's Bill Murray. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about this.
And also, it's a sense of like, why do we have to have this in here? Is this now Men in Black, where you have those sort of cameo performances? There's part of me that thinks the fact that you're having to bring people like that in means that the rest of your film doesn't have any substance.
Well, I think Chaos Theory means that with a long enough run up, Bill Murray's going to appear in one Marvel film. They're running out of actors they can use, to be fair. I mean, God, Harrison Ford's going to appear in a future one, so yeah.
Right, yeah.
That's not the reaction at all.
No, sometimes I think these things are just shoved in and there's no real thought to them, and then it just becomes a cameo rather than a well thought through, but something that you actually think, wow, that means something.
And this film has one of the worst Marvel third acts I've ever seen. Like, it is Deus Ex Machina after Deus Ex Machina. I genuinely thought that... No, I won't say that because that's spoilery. Yeah.
So where are you coming down there? You sound like you're more near the 2.
Well...
Oh no.
I've heard this in reviews.
Yeah.
However, I've done a lot of soul searching to understand why I enjoyed this film while I was sat in the cinema. Because there are flaws stacked on top of flaws. And I think the fact is the cast carry this through. Paul Rudd, obviously, one of the most charismatic men in Hollywood ever. Like, maybe not ever, but certainly around at the minute. But just perfectly likeable in everything he does.
Well cast.
Yeah, cast. Evangeline Lilly, another person who recent tweets make me think, oh, I wish you just got back to being Kate and I didn't have to know much about you. Again, has nothing to do, which is a bit criminal because this has now been 3 films and when are we actually going to get something to do? But Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer are a lot of fun in this. They've got real good chemistry, and the chemistry that they bring with the Bill Murray character, I think, was genuinely quite fun. Jonathan Majors is great and everything. I don't feel he has a lot of threat in this. He just feels like another Marvel baddie. But we'll come on to further thoughts on that. I mean, for me, I love Catherine Newton, who is the person who's been cast as Cassie Lang. I think probably the 3rd person because she was cast before, and then there was the blip. Then after the blip, she aged 5 years, and they brought in Catherine Newton. Do you know Catherine Newton at all?
No, not at all.
So she was the daughter in Big Little Lies.
Oh, all right.
I first saw her in...
the daughter as in Reese Witherspoon's.
Reese Witherspoon and...
Oh, that was very good, yes. Yeah, and Adam Scott's stepdaughter.
She was
very good, yeah.
Yeah, she's really good in that. She's really good in Pokemon Detective Pikachu.
Okay.
She was in Freaky last year.
Right, I didn't see that, but I know of it, yeah.
I get the same vibes with her that I got the first time I saw Florence Pugh, in that she stands out in in small roles in things. Yeah. So that seems to have worked out for Florence Pugh.
Oh, yes.
So yeah,
beloved Florence Pugh of this household.
Yeah. But I think the other thing is this to me feels like Marvel going towards something. I've said before when I've reviewed the films, they feel very insular, and after what got me into the Marvel films was the wider world when we started to get I can't say Chaos Emeralds. No, that's Sonic the Hedgehog.
That's right.
Infinity Stones popping up in films. And,
so you could link it all together, and you're finding
it's the wider world, which I really do. And I feel that the only thing around Kang that makes me know that he is going to be part of the wider world is the fact that I know the titles of future films.
Yeah.
Nothing in this film indicates that Kang is going to be any more than any other off-the-shelf Marvel baddie. But I think I was just happy to be there. So I can fully understand why people hate this. I can fully understand why this didn't work for anyone, because there are many, many problems with it. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't happy to be there and just live through it.
Just live through it.
Yes. Was
it 2.5 hours or a bit longer?
Oh no, it's less. It's 2 hours long.
Okay,
it's less than 2 hours, I believe.
I was thinking it was going to be like closer to 3 because Marvels tend to be quite long.
No, there is.
And I was thinking of you living through it.
This is quite a simple story, to be perfectly honest. People go to the quantum realm. People
come out of the quantum realm.
People fight in the quantum realm. You know, like
fair enough.
Yeah, no, it's
3 very different films, aren't there, that we've been to see, and really indicative of what's on at the cinema at the moment. There's so many things I really want to see, and particularly as we go towards awards season, and lots of sort of independent films. There's one called Blue Jean. It's a film set in Newcastle in the northeast in the 1980s, which is why I was straight away sort of like, but it's about a PE teacher who's gay, and she's not out, and this is a time where Section 28's coming in, and there's just all that homophobia and discrimination and identity politics and just. Oh yeah, there's so much to it, based in the northeast. And I went to school in the 80s in the northeast, and I was thinking about this even before I went to see the film. I was thinking about all the teachers that I would have had, as I went to a number of different schools, and not one of those teachers were out as gay. And I must have had a number of teachers who were gay and who didn't feel able to be their authentic selves. And so I really want to go and see this film because I want to understand the context of Section 28 more, understand the history of it more, but also to see that era portrayed. And it's meant to be really good. It's a film called Blue Jean, if I haven't said that already.
Yes.
But I'm using that as an example of just this. It's not just the big blockbusters that are out. There are films based in our region that are, that are getting lots of recognition, and I just feel there's lots going on in cinema at the moment.
And if you get a chance, go see Marcel the Shell with shoes on.
God, yes, you're obsessed with this film.
It's a lovely film. You just watch the trailer, you get everything you need in there. Annoyingly, they showed the trailer before the film.
So then you're seeing the film, or like a summary of the film before you see the film.
Yeah, that was annoying.
Which is annoying.
And also, I was in the Odeon in the Metro Centre. There were 5 people in the cinema in total because it was like a Wednesday morning showing.
And also, this is quite an arty film, isn't it? Like, or at least it's in that category that I look at it and I think it's about a little shell. And it's like animated, isn't it?
It's stop motion animation. I don't think it's arty, but
I mean, it's not showing on every hour at the Odeon, is it? Like an Ant-Man would be, or something like that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's an independent film.
It's A24, so yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
But yeah, and the trailer shows third act things, and so. Obviously, everyone sort of looked at each other quite nervously when this came on. Like, are we in this right fucking place?
Yeah.
But yeah, weird.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a lovely film. It's innocent. It has a very different view on life. It's kind of like it's a shell that talks and has shoes on. That kind of has a viewpoint on life. When kids say things that are really profound, it's kind of goes through life looking like that, but really eloquently and things like that. It's beautiful.
It's been getting 5 stars across the board in all the various different...
Rightly so.
So nice to see that you were able to get another review of one of the films that you've seen in there as well. Should we stop talking about film and talk about things that we've seen together in telly? Watching television. What do you want to do first? We've got 2 to do.
Let's do Picard.
Picard! Jean-Luc Picard. Remind me what happened. This is another one of my brain doesn't work. Many years ago, when Picard came back, I can't even tell you what channel it was on because I think it's moved around a bit, hasn't it? So when
it was on Prime.
Was it? Right, okay. So Picard came back. This is Jean-Luc Picard. Star Trek, The New Generation.
Next Generation.
That's it. The Next Generation. Famed Captain Picard. Now he's older. Now he's in a vineyard. He's going to be called back. Something's going to happen. He's going to go on an adventure, right? Season 1.
Yeah.
You watched all of it, didn't you?
I mean, can we clarify? I watched all of it.
Mm-hmm. And I gave up after a few episodes. I like the idea. Yes. I like the idea of Picard as an older man. I like the idea of him carrying on his adventures. but the storyline did not grab me at all.
I think the first episode was pretty good, if I remember rightly. And I think it looked beautiful, the first episode.
Oh, God, yeah, I forgot about that.
There was some really, like, the lighting was really well done and stuff like that. But fucking hell, the storyline was absolutely shocking. Like, I don't remember much about the entire season, apart from Picard dressing up as, like, a musketeer and pissing about. And, like, just thinking, why? Like, and I think that happened in, like, that was the sort of thing that would happen in, like, a shit Star Trek episode.
Yeah. And it would be, like, 45 minutes of it, and then in the holodeck.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Holodeck. But a whole series of it.
And, like, it was such a shame because... Like, I was never a massive Trekkie, but my friends were. So I used to watch Star Trek Next Generation, just have stuff to talk to them about. And, like I said, there are shit episodes. Yeah. There are episodes that really stay with me to this day. Like, I can't tell you many, like, episodes of shows that I've really loved. But I remember, like, the Borg episodes and the Q episodes. Yeah, and
the ones with Data.
Like, we still use the term, there are four lights, there are four lights.
God, we really do.
Like, all the time, even though, like, but yeah, my friend Neil, hi Neil, if you're listening, was really into Star Trek. A couple of other friends, like friend Mark, was also really into it. So it was just like a topic of conversation around our group of friends. So yeah, so I feel like I'm comfortable enough with the lore to watch it. I've never watched any DS9, never watched any Voyager.
Okay.
Watched very little of the original series.
Yeah.
And I think I've watched Generations and what's the second one? Nemesis?
First Contact. Nemesis.
First Contact was Sorry, I remember seeing Generations and First Contact, and then I've never saw Insurrection.
Yeah.
Or Nemesis.
Nemesis, yeah, and that's with Tom Hardy as Nemesis.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen all of them, and I watched. I've just got the name wrong. Next Generation, and I remember all of the, like Dr. Crusher and Wesley and Jonathan Frakes and Number One and all of that sort of stuff. I really do like. It's sort of just part of my brain because I think it was either on in like lunch times or something, or on at a particular time when you sort of got in from school or something, and I just always remember it being there at the right time.
It was on 6 o'clock on a Wednesday on BBC Two.
See, that's kind of it, isn't it? Once you've had your tea and you've got in and done your homework. And because the episodes weren't like stupidly long, like today's... sounds like an old woman, but like when things go on for like an hour and a half and you think, I haven't got enough time for that, but it was just quick, and like you say, there was some episodes that really tried to say something where others were a bit more comedy, and it was almost like they were able to play. So one week they would do something a bit off the wall just because they could, whereas the next week we would be talking a lot about morality, for example, and Picard would always be coming out with like these Shakespearean quotes, because obviously Patrick Stewart, and then the next minute he'd be talking about wine and classical music and from the 20th century, blah blah blah. So I really enjoyed the people.
22 and 24 episode seasons, so they had a lot to play with.
So I was excited to see what he would do. I once stood behind Patrick Stewart when he was in the old HMV, which is no longer there, in Newcastle City Centre, and he was buying an Annie Lennox CD.
Weren't we all?
Yeah, exactly. So you can tell the date as well. He had a flat cap on, because when you wear a flat cap, no one knows you are a celebrity.
I mean, you did.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That was my joke.
Oh, right. Okay, sorry. That wasn't clear.
You put a cat on and nobody will recognise you. Anyway, so lots of goodwill with this. Didn't go back for season 2, but heard on various podcasts that season 3 was very much going to be get the gang back together.
Yes.
And I think it's actually called Next Generation, or like, I think episode 1 was called like Next Generation.
I really, really hoped it was like, the subtitle of the season was Let's Get the Gang Back Together.
Yeah. And then there was this poster that was released, which essentially, it looked like one of the films. It looked like a Next Generation film, because it just had all of the people that we know, you know, Geordie LaForge, Jonathan Frakes, you know, all of those people around.
I love how we've used a character name
I know.
and an actor name there.
Remember, you know why I remember? Because he directed some of the films as well. So
Yes.
his name pops up at the beginning, and so my brain has photographed that. And therefore, I know he's called Will Riker in The Thing, but to me, he's just Jonathan Frakes. Anyway, so all of them surrounding Patrick Stewart in that sort of very 90s poster that you get. But obviously, they're all age, like Worf and, you know, all aged. And then I heard people like really, really going to town on it and saying how exciting it was and how nostalgic it was. And I thought, I'm going to give this a go. I had like an hour to myself this week. And I thought, right, I'm just going to stick it on. And if after 15 minutes it's a load of old bollocks, I can just forget about it. And I just loved it. I absolutely loved it. I mean, there's a bit of faff at the beginning where Jean-Luc is, spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen season 1, season 2 of Picard or wants to go into season 3 without anything. I mean, this is tiny, but Jean-Luc's having it off with his Romulan housekeeper. Apparently someone who was like essentially an employee of his in season 1 has suddenly, through season 2, become his lover. And she seems to be a damn sight younger than him. And also, they seem to be on very different pathways. In like, he's like completely retired admiral and giving away all of his like worldly goods, and she's off to some sort of political post somewhere, and he's going to go along with her. Or is he? Because then, out of nowhere, Dr. Beverly Crusher, who, and no one can understand why, who has not been seen for 20 years, she's completely gone away from all the rest of the crew, sends a signal through his little biddy badge that you click on, and when you want to talk to people on your outfit, and she's going to send it a little message through, and a new adventure will begin, and we've got to get the gang back together again. And I just loved it.
Can we just roll back to your use of the term having it off?
Yes.
I mean, I know we're talking about like a 90s throwback, but
bonking.
Bonking. Yeah. Shagging.
No, see, that's much worse. That's much. You've got to. There's a lovely level of having it off and bonking, but then when you get into shagging, that's just like, it's just a bit too. Yeah, there's a line. Oh, keep with the 90s line.
Fair enough.
Yes. So then I dragged you along for this ride, didn't I? I was like, come and watch a bit of Star Trek with me.
Yeah, I mean, I'd heard good things about it, but not enough to get me to.
Did no one say having it off? And
no one said having it off. No one said bonking.
No one said get the gang back together.
Like, I was interested because of, like I said, it's a reunion. There are people in this who I enjoy watching, but then, I mean, there's so much bloody Star Trek. I know they've now got a little at the beginning, like a little Marvel type thing where there's like a little animation that goes on and it says Star Trek, and then the show starts.
Yeah.
So yeah, because there's a Star Trek universe now. There's about 4 different
there's
shows
all
on,
sorts
isn't
of
there?
different ones. I'm not bothered all about that. I just want this, because this to me is like the film, another film.
I enjoy everyone interacting. There is a subplot of a character that I think I recognise from season 1.
Yeah, me too. I know what you mean.
I turn off when
really
she's on. Although,
yeah, me too.
We've seen the first 2 episodes, and her storyline has just got a bit more interesting recently, for reasons. Some of the acting in this is absolutely embarrassing, appalling.
I like it.
There are characters with very interesting accents. But yeah, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't enjoying it.
But to me, it's just like watching the TV show again, or like the films, like I say, where sometimes you're kind of going, oh, okay. And then other times you think, wow, I'm watching this really deep performance about, you know, what you do in these very, very difficult circumstances of politics and intrigue and morality. And so yeah, I really like it.
There's a really weird thing where like Gates McFadden hasn't really been seen for the last episode, even though it's like, yep, she's on the ship, yep.
But we're not going to show you her face.
Not going to show you her face, and then she does appear in this, but I wonder if like,
she was ill those days, or just off somewhere
reshoot.
else.
You just have to show
Yeah.
like B-roll of a face. Like, just lie down here. We're just going to take a photo of you on a bed, and yeah.
And I'm not quite sure where it's going. I mean, there was a major plot reveal in episode 2 that you and I had already lined up in our minds. But I quite like the fact that it wasn't like it wasn't drawn out. It wasn't, and all the things that we thought other people were also saying within, you know, Jonathan Frakes was going, oh, what about this? What about this? You know, and we were doing that as well. So I'm glad it wasn't this sort of like, oh, well, only the audience know that this could possibly be what this is. It was like everyone was like that, and then they got it all out and they got it all sorted, you know, one way or another, and it wasn't just left hanging for sort of 15 episodes. So I quite like the fact that it's very not knowing. It's very, very, it knows exactly what it is. Sometimes, you know, you think they're going to turn to the camera and give it a great big wink, and I just enjoy that. You had your phone sort of like firmly in your hand when we watched episode 2, and I think you can do that. You can just sit on an evening, one person not particularly that sort of like bothered about watching every single moment that's on the screen, like me, where I was like, oh, are they going to put any more of this in? But then I could, you know, gone into the kitchen and come back and not really felt that I needed to pause it, or it's that sort of thing. I'm enjoying it.
I'll pay attention when Jodie LaForge is on screen.
Yeah, I don't wait for. Well, I keep waiting for all the
or they have
others
to go and
to
get
come
some
back.
whales. Shall we talk about?
Yeah, last thing to talk about.
So
Now,
what is this called?
What is it called? This is why we are pausing.
This is a really bad title.
Yeah. Now, originally, you said to me it was something like Fleishman is in trouble.
That is what it's called.
Oh, right. See, and that's how bad this is, because I do not know that that's the title. I'm thinking that's the title. Or The Trouble with Fleischman. Was it The Trouble with Fleischman?
Something
it could
like
have been
that.
something like
Yeah,
we
yeah,
know
yeah.
that Trouble's in it. And
Finding Fleischman.
Finding Fleischman, that was it. You were the Finding Fleischman.
Fleischman in Fight.
I mean, it could have been all of those.
Yes.
All those things. So this is based on a book, which
Okay.
I was very excited to hear, because, you know, anything to do with books at the moment is my bag.
Funny that.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, I hadn't heard of it before. Did you know anything about this TV show before you sort of said to me?
Because yes, obviously.
No, but you know what I mean. Rather than just like, oh, I've heard this thing's out. What did you know?
So this was raved about in a lot of podcasts I listened to about 4 months ago when it was on American TV. It's taken a little time to get over here.
Well, lots of things are, aren't they?
For annoying reasons. But yeah, then it was. I've been waiting for it. I've been keeping an eye on when it's coming, because it's got a lot of people in it that I really like. But yeah, I knew about it and I've been waiting for it, so I was like, let's give it a go.
Yeah, and it's Jesse, and I can't remember his surname. What's he called?
Eisenberg.
That's it, Jesse Eisenberg and Claire Danes.
Yeah.
Are a divorced couple who newly divorced, who have 2 children, and we are following Fleischman, as we know him.
Yeah.
Who is a doctor and lives in ostensibly a beautiful apartment in New York, but because of the circles in which he and his wife, who seem to be very well-to-do, are in, he is often, especially with the friends, isn't he? He's often made to feel lesser than, even though he's an incredibly intelligent doctor with a beautiful apartment.
Yes. So, as part of this, he touches base with his old sort of college friends who he has fallen out of touch with because of, I don't think they liked his wife, that's quite clear, and hilarity ensues. At the end of the first episode, something occurs, which I'm not going to spoil, because I think that's left...
There's a thing that's hung on it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Something occurs, and then that's sort of where we're going to head off from, aren't we? But this is so funny, so funny, and so quick-witted. And I mean, Jesse Eisenberg, I think he's having a really, really fun time, for reasons we may go into in a few moments as well.
Yeah.
But just really fun in terms of the dialogue. It's very quick. It's really, really witty. And who are the friends? Who are the people that play
Lizzie
the
Kaplan
friends? That's it.
and Adam Brody.
Yeah. So everyone is properly on top of their game, aren't they? And they seem to be having a really good time bouncing off each other.
I want to spend time with Lizzie Kaplan, Adam Brody, and Jesse Eisenberg, just sat in a diner watching them shoot the shit.
Yeah.
and slag off the ex-wife that no one liked, who was played by Claire Danes.
The dialogue is so true to life as well, like of mates who've known each other for a long time, who may not have seen each other for a while, as they haven't, and who are able just to come back together again, and they know each other intimately. And then there is this added part that really took me by surprise, of that Jesse Eisenberg's character has got on the apps, and he is having a lot of sex, or having it off, as they would call it in Picard.
I have never seen such an advert for divorce. And Jesse Eisenberg, though someone who is incredibly successful as a doctor, and this show kind of goes into like, I just stop you and remind you it wasn't an episode of House at one point, because you were like trying to solve the mystery that
someone
they were
comes
doing.
in and they were jaundiced, and they were trying to like work out what was wrong with them, and I was like, well, cirrhosis of the liver, and okay.
But he clearly is someone who, before he got together with his wife, who I think it's been like at least 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
He's got a 13-year-old daughter, so yeah. Clearly wasn't necessarily the most successful with women, and he's now finding himself as this successful single man about town, and having an amazing
time with all this sort of like no-string sex, and the montage of the sex scenes is just really, really interesting. There's so much placed on and actually I thought there was quite a diversity in the women as well, but there's so much placed on, I don't know if you noticed this, but placed on the women having a good time. It wasn't about him having a good time. He kind of is doing that Jesse Eisenberg, oh, I don't really know what's happening to me here sort of look, you know, that sort of slightly bemused and feeling slightly awkward moment if you look at his face, whereas the women who he's having sex with, and he's having sex in lots of different, they show all different varieties of sexual activity, but they are having a great time, and you can see that in the way that they react. And also there's some full frontal nudity from the women as well. There was at one point. There is one, but
I think there's a carefully placed hand.
but showing female pleasure, which is really interesting. I think for this, it's not all about him having the time of his life.
I mean, I didn't notice that because I was just trying to work out what I could get away with on this podcast. To be honest,
But yeah, I thought it was very interestingly done. But yeah, that idea that he's this man, but and not in a. I thought it's not done in a way that makes you feel like he's creepy.
Yeah, he's not sleazy.
He's being very upfront with what he wants. He's not leading these women on. I mean, you clearly feel that there's some sort of unresolved tension between Lizzie Kaplan's character and him, and she seems to be in a marriage where she's saying, well, you know, my day-to-day, she's at home, she's looking after the children, her husband's coming home, and she feels like he's been off doing things in the city. How has your day been? And it's been busy. And how's it? Well, my day's just been exactly the same as it is every day. And you feel this sense of the lack of fulfillment in her life.
I mean, spoiler, she's featured on the poster quite prominently. So
So yeah, I really love it. Now, this has been getting a lot of criticism, and particularly people who I really like, and I really like listening to their reviews around the idea that these are very rich people, and they clearly are, and there's almost this sense of rich people boohoo. Oh, they're miserable rich people. What a shame. Should we really be feeling sorry for them? But I quite like watching rich people being miserable. So I don't really mind the idea of people with a lot of money who live very privileged lives perhaps having some difficult times, and us watching that. But I also I'm trying to think how to put this. I quite like the setting. I mean, it just says more about me than anything. But I just really like looking at the nice apartments and the clothes, and do you know what I mean? I really like how clean everything looks and how beautiful the streets are, and I like being in that world.
I think it is.
You know,
I've got to be careful what I say here. I feel it is very aspirational in that there is someone who is feeling had come from like quite a bad place and is now feeling liberated. And I'm not going to download any apps anytime soon, hon, so don't worry about that. And anything like that.
I'm not worried about it.
Good.
Yeah,
no,
good.
But like there is that thing of like, in the same way that when you see. And, a lot of people have criticised Succession for it's rich people who, doing that. But when you see them on a boat in the Mediterranean, there is a bit of,
a lovely boat.
I could get that being waited on by staff.
Look at that big hat that Shiv's wearing.
And, like, as much as I'm uncomfortable with being waited on by staff, like, there is that little, it might be nice just once. I'd quite like to live in a apartment overlooking
Central Park,
or even Lisa's Park and and
but I can see how for some people that just isn't their bag, and for me, rightly or wrongly, it really is. So it really falls into that quick-witted very fast-paced humour, or some awkwardness, a little bit of romance, a little bit of posh people chatting away. It all kind of comes together for me.
Good kid performances as well. I mean, going back to Cocaine Bear, one of the kid performances is quite annoying, whereas in this, the kids hit the right note, even though, they're meant to be a little bit like of a problem at times.
Yeah, of course, because the daughter is. They are children of divorce, and therefore, the daughter has clearly taken the mother's side.
Yeah.
That you can hear the mother in the daughter, which is very true to life. Whereas the son seems to be wanting to sort of help his old dad, and a little bit more. Like, sort of clearly sees the pain in his dad's face when the daughter's sort of playing away. But it's I think it's great. I'm glad you said for us to watch it. And when we finished episode 1, I nearly said to you, do you want to watch the next one?
Yeah, well, I think quite often when we do these things, we're like, I really enjoy this, and then we stop watching it.
Yeah.
But I think I will plough on through this, even if you stop, and but I think we're both on the same page on this, pretty much.
Yeah, nice.
Right then. A nice podcast is complete.
I was like, God, what have I got next to say? That's it. It's the end. It's the end. It's because we're doing TV at the end. So now I'm thinking we should go to film, but we've already done that.
I can talk about Marcel the Shell with shoes on.
No. I'm. You just like saying the title.
No, I don't actually.
You do.
It's a long thing to say.
You do. You like it because you say it over and over again. You find an excuse to say it and then you do it.
You can't. I don't think you can shorten it down, because if you just say Marcel, people think the monkey from Friends, or Marcel. We will be back soon. There is a lot coming out. I need to see Creed 2 because Creed 3 is coming out next weekend.
Yeah, you do, don't you? You need to see the second one.
Yeah, I don't know how I missed it. All the way through.
Because I've seen it, so I don't know how you haven't.
No. Something else must have been happening that weekend or something, but and then we've got there's a lot of things back to back. There's Scream 6, there's Dungeons and Dragons. A Dungeons and Dragons ride.
Filmed up here as well, filmed in the northeast.
Oh, joy.
Yeah. I mean, we're all counting down for Indiana Jones, so we've got that coming. There's loads of things coming out over the next few months, so we will be back, and we will be covering as much of it as we possibly can.
And we can tell you why we've stopped watching Picard.
That'll be it.
Got shit all of a sudden.
Yeah. Thanks very much for listening, everyone. If you'd like to leave a review or a star rating, review on Apple Podcasts, star rating on Spotify, we really, really appreciate that. It does really help us move through the rankings and the algorithms and the other things that help people find us.
And if you want to follow us, we are on Instagram and Twitter @The Honeymoon Pod.
See you next time.
See you later.